Mark 11. Just kind of stay right. I feel you guys, you're just staying in this place. Just stay right there. Let's just keep flowing right here. God wants to just keep moving. Mark 11, starting in verse 12. I'm going to read this out of the NLT. So Jesus came to Jerusalem, went into the temple, and after looking around carefully at everything, he left. It was late afternoon. Then he returned to Bethany with the 12 disciples. Verse 12. The next morning, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. He noticed a fig tree in full leaf a little way off. So he went over to see if he could find any figs, but there were only leaves because it was too early in the season for fruit. Then Jesus said to the tree, "May no one ever eat your fruit again." And the disciples heard him say it. He approaches this tree. It's not bearing fruit. And basically he curses it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." It's interesting, right after that happens, he goes into the temple and he clears out all the money changers. And it was a fruitless religious system he got after and just kind of cleaned things out. And then we'll pick this back up in verse 20. And so the next morning, as they passed by the fig tree he had cursed, the disciples noticed it had withered up from the roots. The disciples had noticed that it had withered up from the roots. Peter remembered what Jesus had said to the tree on the previous day and exclaimed, "Look, Rabbi, the fig tree you cursed has withered and died." He spoke words to the fig tree. It was his words, and the tree withered from the roots up. When he comes, how many, have you guys ever had any issues in life? Any crazy circumstances? Anybody ever had that? Have you ever cried out to God, "Help"? Yeah, 100 times a day. When we cry out to God and when he gets in the middle of our situations, in the middle of our issues, in the middle of our circumstances, he goes to the root of the issue, not the symptom. The issue, the circumstance, cannot live without roots, right? I need my beautiful assistant, my wife, Diane. I will need the plant out of the bag. Yeah, give Diane a big round of applause. The live one, yeah. So spiritual things go to the roots, not the symptoms. Can you see the roots of this plant? But if Jesus has a word and we partner with him, whatever he's saying, and he, just like that fig tree, he literally spoke to the roots. He spoke to the issue, the roots of the thing going on. He speaks to the roots of the things going on inside of us. A lot of times, like people will be dealing with drugs, alcohol, sex, all those things, and we look at all that fruit coming out of that person. We're like, man, you need to stop doing that. You need to quit this. You need to quit that. But there's something going on the inside. Something we don't see, and he knows what is going on inside. So, if he goes to the roots of things, if he severs things off at the roots, this is a beautiful plant. I have to. Even though sometimes we think things are really beautiful in our life. How many times have you go, "God bless me"? Has anybody ever said, "God bless me"? Come on, be serious. You've asked God to bless you, right? How many times have you prayed, "God prune me"?
Everybody, 1, 2, 3.
Now, when he severs something at the root, thank you, Diane. This thing's dead, right? Does it look alive? Does it smell alive? Does it feel alive? How many times have we prayed to God for something and it went to the roots and the symptoms are so alive. And I can tell you the voice coming, he didn't heal you. Or even the doctor, it's bad. And he went to the roots, something we don't even see. And he severed it at the roots. And this thing is alive. Seems really alive, right? Looks alive, smells alive, feels alive. We can see it. It's alive. And he goes, I've severed it at the roots. Now, we've seen miracles. Everybody here today, you're sitting here today, you're breathing. That's a miracle just all in itself. If Jesus saved you, that's the biggest miracle we'll probably ever experience in life right there, okay? He set us free. And so we've experienced these miracles, and miracles are this instantaneous thing. I love that. I've heard deaf ears pop open several times when I prayed, and it's just this pop. And even the person kind of jumps, and the ear just opens up, and I'm like, it just blows my mind. And I love miracles because it's right now. Does anybody like the right now? I got my torch, man. I love the right now. I love miracles. I really do. But what if it's healing? What if there's restoration happening? What if it's a process? And he's already severed the thing at the root and it's dead, but we keep buying back into what we see, feel, and smell and can touch. Spiritual things go to the roots, not the symptoms. And so let's just take healing, for instance. I get this crazy diagnosis. And matter of fact, I'll just throw this little story in. I had 2 back-to-back 9-hour flights from Africa. The plane was late getting into Entebbe, so I rode 9 hours, slept most of the way, came right off that plane because the flight was late, jumped right on the next plane, had about 20 minutes, and then I was another 9 hours in the air. I slept a bunch of the way, and airplanes just are not comfortable, and so you're all just kind of crooked in there, and when you get out, you can't even hardly walk. Well, anyway, when I got out of the second plane, I noticed I had a pain in the calf of my leg. And I thought, boy, that's really unusual. I'll be real honest. I normally just do not run to the doctor. It's just me. And God goes, you need to go to the doctor. And I'm like, wow, that was the Lord. And so I went to the doctor, and I was telling him what had happened, this pain in the calf of my leg. And he goes, oh, we need to do a sonogram. As soon as I'd done the sonogram, he goes, I can't even let you get up out of the chair. And I'm like, am I dying? And he said, you have a blood clot. And so they give me a shot in the stomach, and then he said, you're good. And he said, then you'll have to shoot yourself 2 times a day in the stomach for the next 5 days. And the blood clot, went away. That time he told me to go to the doctor. I love doctors. I love medicine. There's nothing wrong with that. And then there's been times when God's like, just trust me, believe me. But we have to know he's going to the root of the things. And even though I still felt that pain in my leg, and so there are times when I really believe we get the miracle, but then I believe there are times when we receive the healing or we receive the process in the circumstance of what we're living in. But because what it looks like and what it feels like hasn't went away, the symptoms are still there. And what we'll do is we'll buy back in, and the enemy is really good. And if you got really negative friends, they'll get you to buy right back in like you're not healed. And the enemy will get us believing that voice. Would you bring me up that vase on the bottom? So when we start buying back into the symptoms, see, now it's going to live longer. Or we think it's living longer. It's still really dead. But it's going to still really be alive, look alive, and feel alive. Thank you, Daya. So we have to trust that he's going to the root. That he's severing it at the root. I'm going to go on to Mark 16. Verses 17 and 18. The Great Commission. Actually, I'll just start there in 15. Go ye into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. This is really good news. Anyone who believes and is baptized will be saved, but anyone who refuses to believe will be condemned. These miraculous signs shall accompany those who believe. They will cast out demons in my name. They will speak new languages. Let me go to New King James. Hang on. I was on NLT. I'm so sorry. Let me pull that up because I really want. And 17, and these signs shall follow those who believe. In my name they will cast out demons. They will speak with new tongues. They will take up serpents. And how many ever seen that thing on TV? I'll just give you a little just clip here. You ever seen that on TV? And they go to these churches and they're handling snakes and stuff like that? Okay. And then they get bit and a lot of them die. They will take up serpents. That word take up means remove, and serpents means Satan. And who's the father of lies? So they remove the lies, okay? So don't anybody bring snakes on Sunday. I just don't like them, all right? Side note, sorry. And if they drink any deadly thing, it will not hurt them by any means. They will lay their hands on the sick and they will recover. Recovery is a process. And it's the process, it's the recovery. We want the miracle, and he severed it at the roots, but maybe it's the healing, maybe it's the recovery, maybe it's a process he's walking us through in life. John chapter 4. We're going to start in verse 46. So Jesus came again to Cana of Galilee, where he had made the water into wine. And there was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus had come out of Judea into Galilee, he went to him and implored him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Then Jesus said to him, unless you people see signs and wonders, you will by no means believe. The nobleman said to him, Sir, come down before my child dies. Jesus said to him, go your way, your son lives. So the man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and went his way. And as he was now going down, his servants met him and told him, saying, your son lives. Then he inquired of them the hour which he got better. The King James Version said, or the hour he began to amend. It was a process. It was a healing. It was a process. How many times do we really, do we give up hope in a situation, whatever's going on in our life? And God has spoken into the situation, and then the enemy comes in that situation. Maybe it's people around us. Maybe it's just our head going crazy, our mind. And it's like, this thing isn't going to happen. 6 weeks ago, I shared with you guys about the process of this building. You know, we buy a $1.85 million building with no money and no people, and we pay interest for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, we have to pay $100,000, and then the third year, it's still interest, and it's another $100,000, and then this fourth year, we're coming into it, and it's interest plus another $100,000. And it was a mountain in my life. I shared that with you guys, okay? But before that, I mean, that thing was weighing heavy on me. It was just this huge obstacle in my way. It was like my head would get into that, and I knew the contract was running out with the man I had to deal with at the bank, and we were $60,000 out of the $100,000 going into the fourth quarter. That's a big deal in my mind, okay? But months before that, God spoke to me and he said, hey, I got this. And that comforted me. I got this. And I'm like, okay. But you know, I kind of lost track of that. That I got this because I started looking at the circumstances. I started looking at what still seemed really alive. What felt really alive. But in that same time, every now and then it would just kind of come back to me. I got this. I've got this. And in 6 weeks' time, we got the $100,000. Mark 9:24, a man brings his son to Jesus. The kid's laying on the ground. He's foaming at the mouth. He's got a deaf and dumb spirit in him. It's a mess. And Jesus said, just believe. And the guy said, I believe, help my unbelief. What I see and feel right now seems very real. 6 weeks ago, it seemed very real. That we're not going to make it. And Jesus is going, just believe. And I'm like, God, help my unbelief. Another way. I mean, what everything looks like, what I see and I feel right now, what's going on, that seems more real, God, than you saying, I got this. Just being honest. And I love that he goes ahead and he heals this guy's son because the guy was basically just saying, help. And that's all we all do is just cry, help God. And he comes in and he severs things at the root and he takes care of them. And it's just so hard to see those roots, that it's withering from the roots up, because sometimes the circumstance, everything are still screaming. It seems so alive. So he gives us a little heads up here, kind of what to do. We're going to go back to Mark 11. We're going to go down to verse 22. So they come back, they see that this fig tree has withered from the roots up, starting in verse 22. And then Jesus said to the disciples, so he's given them a teaching, have faith in God. I tell you the truth. You can say to this mountain, may you be lifted up and thrown into the sea, and it will happen. But you must really believe it will happen and have no doubt in your heart. And I tell you, you can pray for anything, and if you believe that you received it, it will be yours. But when you are praying, first forgive anyone you are holding a grudge against, so that your Father in heaven will forgive your sins too. Let's take this out. Let's just kind of break this apart. The Passion Translation, when it says have faith in God, let the faith of God be in you. Let the faith of God be in you. I've shared this several times here. Faith, the word faith in the Greek, the definition, faith means the truthfulness of God, and it means persuade. So Abraham in Romans 4:21, it said that he was fully persuaded that God was able to perform the promise that he gave him. It was God. He was fully persuaded that God could do it. So, in other words, we just accept his truth, his word coming in. When God said, hey, John, I got this, I had to accept that word. And I just had to receive that. And you know, that whole time deep down in me, I knew something was going on. But man, I'm telling you, everything I was seeing just didn't look like it was going to happen. Because I got distracted and really instead of focusing on what he said. So let the faith of God be in you. And then he says, I tell you the truth. In other words, listen. Listen to what I'm saying. I got this. And believe, and a believe is just basically just trust God. It's all impossible anyway. Really, everything's impossible anyway. So we just have to trust him. And then he says, pray or ask. And then he says, receive. So in other words, just accept it that he's got it. And what he said is true. The interesting part, and forgive. He tells us to forgive others. In other words, don't hold any offense in your heart. He said, because if you're holding offense, if you're holding a grudge against somebody, he said, that's going to block the way for me to remove the stuff in your life. In Psalms 51, David, cries out here. He'd been through this whole craziness, He'd slept with Bathsheba. She'd gotten pregnant. He's responsible for murdering, her husband. And he cries out, and basically it's like, forgive my sin, forgive my transgression, forgive my iniquity. Those three things. And God not only forgave him, but he completely cleansed him. We've all walked through that. There's a miracle right there each and every day that we can cry out for that. And so that sin is basically, that's the intent of the heart. The transgression is like kind of when we trespass, when we step over and we just start walking the thing out. And the iniquity is basically like things that happened in our bloodline, like generational curses, different things that have been spoken over our lives. And we just ask God, hey, please, I'm not going to hold any offense, any grudge against anybody else because I have so much of my own junk that I need to be clean of right now. And he wants to forgive us of that. He wants to cleanse us of that. And so we let go of all that. And then he's free to move. Because the blood. The verdict is the blood. He died on a cross. Man, he shed his blood. He gives us the strength to forgive. And then he forgives us and he cleanses us from the top of our head to the soles of our feet. How many have a mountain in their life? And maybe it's with a relationship. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's a sickness. Maybe it's a disease. I'll put it this way. Anything killing, stealing, and destroying right now in your life is a mountain. It's a mountain. And Jesus said that he's come that we might have life. The mountains in each one of our lives, I know we're all dealing with mountains right now. We get them. We live in this world. And so mountains are going to come. Things are going to get in the way. Whatever form they come in, it's going to be different for each one of us. But they're so real. They're very obvious. Because at that point, whenever we're walking through that, it is screaming. That's what's before us. That's what we see in this physical realm. And he said, but faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So there's something working down in the roots of this mountain, whatever is going on in our life. God is speaking, and it's like, God, what are you saying right now? What are you saying? I've got this. I'm healing you right now. You have recovery right now. You're in process right now. You are recovering, and can we hang on to that with everything that we have? Because I think sometimes we see the miracle and man, we all jump and shout and that is awesome. But when we're in recovery, it's so easy just to forgive up and let go of recovery. And he's going, hey, hang on to recovery. Hang on to the process I'm walking you through right now. That's what he's saying. I mean, really, even think about that. Think about the different seasons we go through in life. Yeah, I was kind of joking around, but there are so many times I'm like, God bless me. Maybe what God's saying right now is ask me to prune you. What needs to be pruned? What needs to be out of the way? How many times we go, God, I just want victory, man. I just want to be walking on top of those clouds. And he's going, hey, pray for testing and trial. How many times have you prayed for that? God, send a test, send a trial. No hands. You guys are honest anyway. But I mean, think about that because maybe he's even saying, yeah, I want you to be so full of joy. I want you to be so patient. Man, I want you to be mature. I want you lacking nothing. Let's just go into the middle of that. Count it all joy, my brethren, when tests and trials come your way. And so can we even go, hey, God, I need a test. I need a trial. That's what you're saying to me right now. I'll give you one little hint. Just pray for grace when he does that. It's his grace and mercy that walks through that. It's like, because really for us to step into the things we're supposed to step into, he wants us walking in full character of what we're supposed to walk in. And it takes tests and trials. It takes storms. I mean, how many times we go, God, I just need peace right now. Please, peace, peace, peace. And he may be saying, just get in the middle of the storm. Because maybe that's the only place you're going to find peace. What's he saying? When he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and all these other things will be added unto you. So what's it look like if we're going through something? We have this major mountain in our life. The first place my head goes to, like just with the bank thing, with needing the 60 grand in the fourth quarter, my head goes, God, I got a need. I need $60,000. How many times you go, God, I need to be healed? I mean, seriously. But he's saying, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things or all these other needs will be added. And so when we come into this place, we got this mountain in our life. We're supposed to seek the kingdom first. In other words, if we seek kingdom, God, what are you saying right now in this situation? What are you saying? Am I supposed to rebuke the storm? Am I supposed to step into the storm? Am I supposed to walk this test out right now? What's it look like? God, what are you saying right now? That's seeking the kingdom first. It's seeking his word. I mean, man, this thing is just loaded. There's over 30,000 promises in here. What's he even saying? So that's seeking kingdom. And basically, if we're seeking what he's saying, if we're seeking this word, that's seeking truth. See, the fact is, when we're going through something, the fact is, yeah, you're sick. You got a disease. Fact is, yeah, your finances stink right now. The fact is, yeah, your relationships are in turmoil right now. That's the fact. But the truth is, what is the truth? What is he saying? And honestly, if we would really look at that, it's like, what is the truth? I am a child of the Most High God. You are sons and daughters of the Most High God. That's a kingdom. That's seeking the kingdom first. That's walking in that place going, who am I? I am a son. That's coming, that's seeking the kingdom first. And then, even in that, when the enemy's trying to take us out and he's flooding us with all these things, and when it seems impossible, and he's going, I'm going to kill you, and you go, you know what? No. I have a plan and purpose. It's written in heaven. There's a whole book in heaven on John. There's a whole book in heaven on you, and it's your purposes, it's your plans, it's your destiny that he has for you. I remember different times going into countries and people are like, aren't you scared to death? And I go, there's so many things he's promised me and they haven't been fulfilled yet. I know he has a plan. I know he has a purpose. Brian just got back from Haiti and he's there with his 3 kids and they're on that island and the hurricane's coming. But God's got a plan, a purpose, a destiny for him and all his children. And God protected. God got him the other side of the island. There's so much that happened there. And do we really see it for that? That crazy boat ride, I've been down there and we leave the port and we go over to the island. It's a 4.5-hour boat ride in this old boat. There's really no place to sit but just kind of old dirty wood and ropes, okay? It's just not comfy, all right? And after I had taken that trip, I rode 4.5 hours over and I ride 4.5 hours back to the mainland. You know what my prayer was? God, send them a boat, a fast one. I know a boat that we can get there in an hour easily, and it'd be very comfortable, and it's got seats. And so my prayer, I know they've been praying for it, but man, I've been praying. God, send them a boat. Do you know what would have happened if he would have answered my prayer immediately? The hurricane came, it would have been tied up because there was no place to dock it. Either it was sunk or it was washed in and broke all apart. Maybe it was the mercy of God, they don't have a boat yet. Now I'm leaving the day after Thanksgiving. I'm believing still for a boat, okay? Godspeed on that, right? But what's he saying? What is he saying in each one of our circumstances with the mountain in front of us? I got more stuff in the bag. Hold these up, will you?
From the rooftop?
It doesn't matter. Here's your issue, your circumstance, your sickness, your disease, the storm, whatever this represents in your life. It's already dry. It's withered up from the roots. How many need one of these for a reminder? I got about 4 or 5. Because every time you look at this, come back. Come on. Come. You need one? Oh, this one's got long roots. Who's got something that's really hanging on? Who's kind of got small issues? No, okay, fine. Who's got double issues? I'll give you 2. Yeah. Matter of fact, come up, worship team. Yeah, that's what you need to do. Oh, yeah.
Well, one thing that he did when he cut it off, and he's saying it still looks alive, and we still look at these symptoms, we still look at whatever our issue is, and we put it in a vase. And where do you put your vases? Right at the center of your table or in your kitchen, and it becomes a focal point where this is all that you have in front of you. So when he was talking about how many of us pray to be pruned, well, none of us do, but I want to encourage you to pray for God to prune you so that this is no longer your focal point, no longer in front of your face where this is all that consumes me because it's all that I see, because I'm not focusing on the roots because I can't see those.
Good word.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Woo. So, how many of you guys want to grab back a hold of your recovery, your process? Grab back a hold of your recovery, your process. We've let go. You know, and I've done it over and over again, and it's the mercy, grace of God, because it's like, I believe, and then God help my unbelief. And I know the journey through life because I know there are circumstances, I know things are so real at times, and we grab back onto them, and then we come back to what God is saying. But I really believe this morning he's saying, hey, will you just grab back onto the process right now? Will you grab back onto that recovery right now? It's the promises. Abraham was fully persuaded that it was God who was able to perform, to make the promise happen. And it's the power of God.
What he was saying about when Jesus cursed the tree, he was the only one that really knew that the tree was cursed. So when God told me that you're healed, and I'll tell you when to stop the chemo. Well, a couple Fridays ago, I got a bad report saying that, they found another spot. But God told me that I was healed. So it doesn't matter what you guys believe or what you guys see I'm going through. It's what he told me. Just like Jesus was the only one that believed that tree. When he cursed it, he knew it was dead. So when God told me, and it's so funny because when the doctor's saying, well, we need to go on another chemo. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And he kept talking. And I'm like, my friend was saying, Kath, keep smiling. Because I already knew that God already told me, keep doing chemo. You're healed. Keep doing chemo. See, God's got a plan, and it's not just about me being healed and get healing. It's about the people who I'm going to walk through with. See, the only thing I can take to heaven is other people, and that's where I'm at. And that's what it's all about. It's his plan. It's not our man. If men plan, God laughs. Because he's like, it's about my plan. So if God spoke something in your heart, even if it's a wife or a husband, and they're like, well, I haven't seen it, hold on to that. Hold on to it because God spoke it to you. He didn't see, people see and they'll hear and they know I'm going through chemo, but I got to hold on to the word that God gave to me. And so when you hold on to it and everything goes around and goes crazy, you're still in that peaceful mode where Jesus was in the boat sleeping. You're going to stay in that peaceful mode and say, I don't care what they say. I know the truth, and the truth is I'm healed.
Thank you, God. Awesome. So what I feel, what are you saying right now? That would be a great place to start, huh? Thank you, Lord. Yeah, Kathy, for sure you come up. Pam Erickson, come up. Brian, come up. And Bill and Terry, come up. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Lord. Know this, God knows whatever you're dealing with, okay? He even knows when we let go of the process, when we let go of the recovery, whatever we're going through, he knows that. But his grace and mercy and his love just brings us back to that place to just grab back onto the promise, to grab back onto the truth. And I feel like this morning, God just wants to open this up where we've lost hope. We've lost expectation. Expecting God to move. And he moves. And he is moving on our behalf. I mean, the problem has been severed at the roots. The roots are dried up. It's just some of the foliage looks really alive right now. And so I just want to open this up this morning as we go back into worship. If there's places you've given up expectation, maybe you've been prayed for 100 times about a circumstance, don't give up. You know, it was like the lady that went to the unjust judge. She just kept going and kept going and kept going. And he was an unjust judge. And finally he's like, yeah, okay, I'm just doing this. I'm taking care of it. And just think of our just judge. Just think of our Father and how good he is and how he wants to move on your behalf. And so I just believe that God this morning, he's wanting where we haven't seen miracles and where we're in the restoration, the recovery process, he's wanting us to just grab back a hold of that promise. So as we go into worship, this is wide open up here. We just want to partner with you this morning. Everybody bow your heads and follow me in prayer before we do this, before we open this up. Just right now, just say, Father, I forgive everyone that I have offense with. I take them off my hook and I put them on your hook. Father, because of the blood of Jesus, I ask you to forgive me of all my sins, all my transgressions, and all the iniquity. I come before you clean today, God. I come boldly to your throne of grace that I may obtain your mercy, your unfailing love. And I am asking you now, God, where I haven't seen a miracle, but where I'm in the recovery process, I am grabbing back onto that truth, that hope, and I am expecting you to move in my life regardless of what it looks like. The altar is wide open, and if you want to come up, we will partner with you in prayer. Otherwise, just take this time right now, just even soak right where you're at. I just feel God is so moving right now. He's a good God. He loves us so much, so much.